I work in IT, so late nights at the office aren't unusual for me. I live in a quiet suburb about a 20-minute walk from my office, and most nights I actually enjoy the walk home. It gives me a chance to clear my head after staring at screens all day. This happened about 6 months ago, and I still can't shake it. I haven't told many people because, honestly, I don't even know how to explain it without sounding paranoid or crazy. It was a Thursday night, around 11:30 p.m. I'd stayed late fixing a server issue, and by the time I packed up, the streets were pretty much deserted. It wasn't cold, just that kind of crisp air that keeps you alert. I took my usual route, down Maple, cut through Birch Lane, then across the park that leads to my street. I was about halfway down Birch Lane when I noticed a guy standing under a street lamp. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there, facing my direction. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about it. People walk around at night all the time, but something about how still he was made me uneasy. I kept walking, eyes forward, telling myself not to be stupid. As I got closer, I glanced at him just to be aware, and that's when I heard it. Ethan. He said my name. Not a question, like someone wondering if they recognized me, but like a statement. Like he knew me. I stopped walking for a second, caught off guard. I don't have a common name, and I definitely didn't know this guy. He looked to be in his late 30s, wearing a dark jacket and jeans. Nothing stood out except the way he was smiling. It wasn't friendly. It was like he was waiting for me to react. "Do I know you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He took a step toward me. "Ethan Cole, born August 17th. You live at 42 Meadow Park Drive, apartment 3B. I felt my stomach drop. My full name, my birthday, my exact address. I took a step back instinctively. "Who the hell are you?" He didn't answer that. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, like he was studying me. "Walking home late again," he said, almost amused. "You really should lock your balcony door when you get in." "Oh, and that spare key you keep taped under the kitchen sink?" Not exactly a safe spot. That's when full-blown panic set in. This wasn't some weird coincidence or someone mistaking me for someone else. This guy knew things no stranger should know. Things no one would know unless they'd been inside my apartment. I turned and started walking fast, almost running, but I didn't want to look like I was sprinting in case he chased me. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. I glanced over my shoulder. He was still standing under the street lamp, not moving, just watching me with that same smile. I pulled out my phone to call someone, anyone, but my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I called 911, but as I was about to hit dial, I thought, what am I even going to say? That some guy knows my birthday? That he might have been in my apartment? I decided to get home first and figure it out from there. I cut through the park like I always did, but every shadow felt like it was moving. I kept checking behind me, but I didn't see him following. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. When I finally reached my building, I rushed upstairs and slammed the door behind me, locking both the handle and the deadbolt. First thing I did was check the balcony door. It was locked. I went to the kitchen, crawled under the sink, and sure enough, the spare key I'd taped there was gone. That confirmed it. He had been inside. I barely slept that night. Every creak, every gust of wind outside made me jump. I reported it to the police the next day, of course. They took it seriously at first, until they asked if anything was stolen or if I saw him break in. I hadn't. There was no sign of forced entry, and nothing was missing except that spare key. They basically told me to change my locks and be more careful. So I did. I changed every lock in my apartment, even added a security bar to the balcony door. For a while, I thought that was it. That maybe it was some elaborate scare, though I had no idea why someone would go to those lengths just to mess with me. But then, about 2 weeks later, I started noticing small things out of place. A coffee mug I swore I didn't leave on the counter. A window slightly cracked open when I never leave windows open. My toothbrush felt damp once when I hadn't used it all day. It was subtle. So subtle I started questioning if I was just being paranoid after what happened. Then came the night I found the note. It was sitting on my pillow when I got home from work. Just a single sheet of paper folded in half. No envelope. No name on it. Inside, in neat handwriting, it said, "You're getting better at locking up, but I'm already inside." I can't even describe the feeling I had reading that. It was like every part of me wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. I tore through my apartment, checking every closet, under the bed, inside cabinets, nothing. No one. I stayed at a friend's place that night. The next day, I had a security company install cameras inside and outside my apartment. Motion detectors, alarms, the whole package. I wasn't taking any chances. For a while, things were quiet again. I checked the camera feeds religiously. There was never anything unusual. Until one morning, about a month later, when I woke up to find all the cameras turned to face the walls. Every single one. There were no alerts, no footage of anyone moving them. Just blank spots where someone had deliberately pointed them away. That was when I decided I couldn't stay there anymore. I broke my lease, paid whatever penalty they asked, and moved halfway across the state within a week. It's been months now, and nothing strange has happened since. But I still can't relax. Every time I walk home at night, I catch myself glancing at every person I pass, wondering if I'll see that same man again. Sometimes I think about what he said, that I should lock my balcony door. But my old apartment was on the 3rd floor. There was no fire escape. No way to climb up without someone noticing. I still don't know how he got in. And the part that keeps me up at night isn't wondering if he'll come back. It's wondering if he ever really left. Story 2. I've always been a night owl. Working freelance from home means my schedule is pretty much whatever I want it to be, and most nights I'm up until 2 or 3 in the morning. It's quiet, no distractions, and honestly, I just like the vibe of being awake when the rest of the world is asleep. I live alone in a small apartment on the edge of town. It's not the nicest area, but it's affordable, and I've never had any real issues. That is, until a few weeks ago. It was a Friday night, or technically Saturday morning, around 1:45 a.m. I was sitting at my desk, headphones on, finishing up a project when I heard a knock at the door. Not loud, just a couple of casual knocks, like someone trying not to wake the whole building. At first, I thought I imagined it. Nobody comes by at that hour, and I wasn't expecting anyone. But then it came again, 3 slow knocks. I took my headphones off and just sat there for a second, listening. My heart was already beating a little faster. It's that weird feeling when something happens outside of what you expect, and your brain immediately starts running through scenarios. I got up and walked over to the door. My building's old, so there's no fancy intercom system, just a peephole. I looked through it and saw a guy standing there in a black hoodie and a baseball cap, holding a large brown paper bag. It took me a second to process, but then he spoke up. "Delivery for Alex," he said, his voice low but clear. That's my name, but I hadn't ordered anything. I didn't even have any delivery apps open that night. I opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain lock on. I think you have the wrong place. I didn't order anything." He didn't seem fazed. He just lifted the bag slightly. "Food delivery. Already paid for." I could see his face a little better now, late 20s maybe, clean-shaven, neutral expression. Nothing about him screamed danger, but something still felt off. I told him again that I didn't order anything. He just stood there for a moment, then smiled a little. "Maybe someone sent it to you. Late-night gift or something," he said. I hesitated. I had been talking to a friend earlier that day who joked about how I survive off junk food. For a second, I thought maybe they actually did send me something. But then I asked from where? The guy's smile faded slightly, like he wasn't expecting the question. "It's just local." "Doesn't say." That was weird. Every delivery driver I've ever dealt with could tell you where the order came from. I told him to hold on and shut the door to check my phone. No texts, no notifications, nothing from any friends or apps. When I went back to the door and looked through the peephole again, my stomach dropped. The guy was still there, but the bag was gone. Now he was just standing there, hands at his sides, staring directly at the door. Not knocking, not saying anything, just standing. I felt this wave of fear hit me, like my body realized something before my mind could catch up. I backed away from the door slowly, grabbed my phone, and dialed a friend who lived nearby. While it was ringing, I kept glancing at the door, half expecting him to start banging on it or trying to force it open. But he didn't. My friend didn't answer, so I texted him instead, telling him someone weird was at my door. After a couple of minutes of silence, I checked the peephole again. He was gone. I stood there for a while, trying to calm down, telling myself it was probably just a confused driver or a prank or something harmless. But I still slid my couch in front of the door before going back to my desk. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I called the building manager to ask if the security cameras had caught anything. He told me the cameras in the hallway had been down for maintenance for 2 days. Of course they had. I tried to brush it off, but over the next week, little things started happening. I'd hear soft knocks at random times, always late at night, but when I checked, no one was there. Once, I found a single piece of tape stuck to my door frame, like someone had been testing if I was opening my door while I slept. I know that trick from crime videos. People will place something like that to see if you leave your apartment. That's when I really started getting scared. I bought extra locks, a door brace, even a cheap security camera for inside my apartment. I didn't know if I was overreacting, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever that guy was, he wasn't done. About 10 days after the first incident, I woke up to find a folded piece of paper slipped under my door. No envelope, no name, just a handwritten note. "Why didn't you take your delivery?" That was it. I called the police after that. They took a report but said there wasn't much they could do without a clear threat or evidence of attempted entry. They offered to patrol the area more frequently, but I could tell they didn't think much of it. I was on edge constantly after that, barely sleeping, barely leaving my apartment. Every little sound made me jump. Then, one night around 2 a.m., it escalated. I was lying on my couch watching TV, trying to distract myself, when I heard it, the distinct sound of my doorknob turning, not knocking. Someone was trying to open the door. I froze. The couch was still braced against the door, and all the locks were in place, but hearing that soft rattle of the handle sent pure adrenaline through me. I grabbed my phone and quietly called 911, whispering what was happening. The operator told me to stay on the line and stay quiet. The doorknob stopped moving after a few seconds, but then I heard something that chilled me even more. A voice, whispering through the door. "Alex, open up. I have your delivery." It was him. Same calm, low voice. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, heart pounding, waiting for the police to arrive. I heard him walking away after a minute, but I wasn't about to check. The cops showed up about 10 minutes later and searched the building, but of course, they didn't find anyone. No sign of forced entry, nothing left behind. That was the last time I stayed in that apartment. I packed a bag that night and went to stay with family. A week later, I officially moved out. Here's the part that still messes with me. Before I left, I decided to check the footage from the little indoor camera I had set up facing my front door. I wanted to see if it caught anything from that night. It did. At exactly 2:03 a.m., the camera showed my doorknob slowly turning, just like I heard. But what made my blood run cold was what happened next. The door never opened, but the camera glitched for a split second. And when the feed came back, there was a piece of paper on the floor, right where I later found that note. No one ever appeared on the footage. I don't know how he got that note inside. I don't know what his plan was, or why he picked me. But I still get chills every time I hear a knock at the door, because now I always wonder if it's him. And if it is, what happens when I finally do open it? Story 3. I've always been a pretty private person, so when I finally moved out of my old place and into a new apartment last year, one of the things I was most excited about was having my own space. No roommates, no shared walls, just me. The building wasn't anything fancy, but my unit was on the 4th floor, facing a quiet street lined with older apartment complexes. I liked it because it felt peaceful, especially at night. I could sit by my window, look out over the streetlights, and just unwind. But it didn't stay peaceful for long. It started the first week I moved in. I was setting up my desk near the window when I noticed something strange across the street. There was a building directly opposite mine, a little more rundown than the rest. One window on the 4th floor, almost directly level with mine, had its blinds pulled all the way up. And someone was standing there. At first, I didn't think much of it. People look out their windows all the time. But when I glanced up again a few minutes later, they were still there, just standing, facing my direction. I couldn't make out much detail because of the distance and the dim lighting, but I could tell it was a person. No movement, no phone in their hand, just standing and watching. I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe they were lost in thought or looking at something else entirely. But over the next few days, I realized it wasn't just a one-time thing. Every night, around the same time, usually between 10 and 11 p.m., that figure would appear at the window, always standing in the exact same spot, always facing my apartment. It started to get under my skin. I tried to ignore it, but it's hard not to notice when you feel like you're being watched in your own home. I even tested it once, turned off my lights, crept up to the window, and peeked through the edge of the curtain. They were still there. It became part of my nightly routine to check if they were standing there. And they always were. About 2 weeks in, I decided to mention it to my friend Sarah when she came over. She laughed it off at first, saying I was being paranoid. But when I pointed out the window, her smile faded. "Okay, that's creepy," she admitted. "Have you ever seen them move?" That's when I realized I hadn't. Not once. They never shifted, never sat down, never closed the blinds. Just stood there, night after night. Sarah suggested I close my blinds and forget about it, so that's what I did. I figured if I couldn't see them, it'd bother me less. But that's when things got worse. A few nights after I started keeping my blinds shut, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of my phone vibrating on my nightstand. I had a notification from an unknown number. It was a photo. At first, I thought it was spam, but when I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. It was a picture of me sleeping in my bed. The angle was from outside, like someone had taken it through the window. I sat up immediately and looked toward the window, but the blinds were still closed. My mind was racing. I checked every lock in my apartment, grabbed a kitchen knife, and stayed awake until sunrise. The next day, I went to the police. I showed them the message, but since it came from an anonymous number and there was no clear proof of who sent it, there wasn't much they could do. They said they'd patrol the area more often, but that was about it. I bought a camera that same day and set it up facing my window from inside. I figured if someone tried anything again, at least I'd have footage. That night, I kept my blinds shut tight and tried to sleep, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was out there, just on the other side. When I checked the camera footage the next morning, I didn't expect to see much, but what I found made my blood run cold. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the camera picked up movement. The blinds fluttered slightly, like they were being touched from the outside. But I live on the 4th floor. There's no balcony, no ledge wide enough for someone to stand on. Yet, for a brief moment, the camera caught what looked like fingers pressing against the blinds from the outside. I moved the camera to cover more of the window and doubled up on locks, but deep down, I knew that wouldn't stop whoever or whatever this was. The next few nights were quiet. No messages, no signs of movement. Part of me hoped it was over. Then, one night, Sarah came over again. I hadn't told her about the photo or the camera. I didn't want to sound paranoid. But as we were watching a movie, she glanced toward my window and froze. "Why are your blinds open?" she asked. I turned, confused, because I knew I'd shut them. But she was right. The blinds were pulled halfway up. I felt a chill run through me. I hadn't touched them. I walked over slowly and peeked through the gap, dreading what I'd see. Sure enough, across the street, the figure was standing there. Same window, same spot. But this time, something was different. They were closer. Instead of standing a few feet back like before, they were pressed right up against the glass. And for the first time, I could make out details. It was a man, pale skin, dark eyes, completely bald. His face was emotionless, almost lifeless, like he wasn't really seeing me, just staring through me. I yanked the blinds shut and told Sarah everything about the photo, the camera, all of it. She insisted I stay at her place for a while, and I didn't argue. I only went back to my apartment a few days later to grab more clothes and check on things. It was daylight, so I felt safer. But when I walked in, I noticed something sitting on my bed. It was my phone, the same phone I'd taken with me to Sarah's place. I checked my bag. My phone was still there, fully charged. The one on my bed was identical. Same case, same scratches. But when I powered it on, it went straight to the gallery. There was only one photo. It was a picture of me and Sarah, standing in her apartment, taken from outside her living room window the night I stayed over. That's when I realized it wasn't just about the window across the street. Whoever had been watching me wasn't limited to that building. I moved out that week, left the city entirely. I changed my number, got rid of my phone, and even switched jobs to stay off the radar. But sometimes, late at night, I get this feeling, the same feeling I had in that apartment, like eyes are on me. And every now and then, when I glance at my window, I swear I see a figure, just standing there,